That's true. Thank you.
My work is done here, folks. You all have a good
Free stuff.
You're good to go.
All right, we're good. Nobody's
Well, I
on the
didn't
block?
just-
The block is still done. All right. We're gonna get started. We'll start with the pledge. The pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome all to 2024's first meeting. And as the chief was just saying, we have some beautiful new chairs in here that we got for the very low price of $0 from Kingston. So thank you very much to our neighbors in Kingston for donating these to us. We are very happy about it. We will start as usual by reviewing and signing our payroll and accounts payable register. For the period ending 12/30/23, we had payroll in the amount of $33,707.41. We had accounts payable in the amount of $46,245.58. We had our standard ACH payments to both Swayze and the co-op. The Swayze payment was $232,200. The co-op payment was $648,932.
Make a motion.
We should just sign it, don't we?
No, usually,
We don't usually motion it, we usually just sign it. We can motion if it's like,
but
but we usually just sign it. But thanks.
I thought you and me, not mine.
shot right now.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Happy New Year. Next, I will take a motion for the consent agenda.
Moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. In tonight's consent agenda are the public minutes from 12/19, the rec manifest, the treasurer's report, and the standard building permits. We will now, at 6:02, open up to public comment. As usual, anyone is welcome to come up and comment on any topic of their choosing. We do ask you to give your name and address, and if you can come up either to sit at the end or come near this microphone so your comments are recorded, we would appreciate it. Who's interested? Come on up. Welcome.
Ward Byrne, Row Road, Easton, Brentwood. I think you all know me by now, probably. I got some questions on the status of what's going on with the highway department. I accidentally stumbled across a vacant building that is not being occupied, that doesn't have electricity, obviously doesn't have water, or hasn't been painted inside or anything. And given our current status in the town, I'd like to think that, well, I'll back up a little bit. We spent $350,000, which wasn't enough, if I'm correct, and then we came back and got another $150,000, so that puts us at the $500,000 mark, and our building is still not occupied. That is somewhat disturbing to me, given the fact that we look forward at other projects in town, yet we haven't completed the one that we started. And, you know, I'd like to think for what we're all paying for taxes, that we complete projects in a timely fashion before we move on and spend more dollars somewhere else. And I don't know if there's a project leader or what the status is. It's kind of like a forgotten thing, and I hate to see that building go to shambles because it got put on the back burner where we've already invested so much money. So.
Would you like to speak to that, Karen, or do we want to have Wayne come speak to that?
I mean, Kip is overseeing the project. It's not on the back burner. Over Christmas break, they were installing the propane tanks, doing the lines. I mean, they're still actively working on the project. So they were backfilling all of the trenches to start the electrical work. The plumbing still needs to be done. I just walked it last week. So there still is a lot of finish work that needs to be done, but it's still an active project.
Well, I guess I'm wondering we're on our third year.
This is our second year.
A second year, okay.
So they started it last summer and into the fall, and then we picked it up again this summer, and then we're working through the winter. But it should be done in the next, 6 or 8 weeks, I would think.
6, 8 weeks, okay.
Wayne has
I
Janice.
just wanna let you guys know that the electrician was there today, and they came in, they put the meter in, they got the box in. The heater has been hooked up, but it hasn't been started yet. And the electrician told me tonight that, he'll probably have that going. He'll probably get that going in there, and, I think they gotta get a hold of Eversource. Eversource gotta come in and do something down there. But he's gonna work on that, give them a call, and things are actually gonna get rolling. And once they get the heat in there, they're gonna paint.
Great,
And
thank
then-
you for the update.
And we're just, I was on the board when we approved that project.
Yeah.
One of the big things that we were really trying to focus on was we're always trying to save wherever we can,
Yeah.
as you know. So because we had Kip being willing to supervise the project,
Yeah.
it saved us 20%.
Yep.
Which is huge for a taxpayer. So, I mean, we're trying to do everything that we can for the taxpayers while still doing really important projects for the town simultaneously.
Yeah. I mean, I was shocked to see that it wasn't even occupied, when I went down
Yeah.
there. I just certainly would have thought by this timeline, by now, we'd have moved into there, but I was surprised to see that it wasn't. And the only way you can find anything out now in town is to get actual facts and come down here, so that's what I've done. So it's nothing, not throwing rocks or anything,
No.
I'm just trying to figure out what's going on.
Sounds like it's work in progress.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thanks.
Other comments? Anyone for public comment?
Just a question, when the item comes up for the alternate statements, other than the 3 candidates, can other people speak about those candidates?
I think our intention was for the board to interview those candidates. So unless the board feels differently, I think that was what our intentionality was for tonight. We could discuss that when we get to it, but that was our intention in advance. Judge Cohen?
Liz for yourself wrote, on that same note, were you advised by council that you had to do this in public now? And that's why you've chosen to do it in public?
Yes, a couple of months ago, or I don't know how long it was now, 2 months ago maybe, we took a final vote to change the way we are doing the committee appointments after reviewing it with council. Correct. Yep. Any other public comments? All right, seeing none, we will close public comment at 6:08. And we'll move on to discussion action items. Before we do the conservation alternate statements of interest, Karen has advised me that Joe Bird would like to bring up earned time payout discussion. So I would welcome you to come on up and have a discussion.
My concerns with it were the way that it was handled to begin with. We had had a discussion previously 4 or 5 weeks in advance of that Tuesday night that you guys took the vote, with the understanding that things weren't, to me, weren't going to be changed this year, that you were gonna continue to do the things that the way you'd done it in the past. And I thought if that discussion was going to be had, that we, as the 2 people that were most affected by it, would have the opportunity to at least express our side of the situation. And it came up on a Tuesday night. I didn't find out about it until the middle of the following week. And to me, if you had even made that vote, then I felt that it should have been notified before that, and to give us the opportunity to have used up that extra time. I mean, the week before Christmas, to me, you turn around the week before Christmas, you take a vote on something like that, and then you don't give us the opportunity to use up the time, type of thing. So that was my feelings on it. I don't know what Wayne feels, but that's kind of the direction I'm headed with it.
Well, I'll tell you, was it last week? It was last week, I think. When I come in here, I didn't know that I didn't know anything about what you guys are gonna do. You started talking about it, and you started to, say you were gonna take the, give 48 hours, I guess it was, 48 hours for the earn time, and I listened to it, but I didn't say anything, because I'll tell you, I know my earn time is probably more than anybody's. Yeah.
It is.
That's what I'm saying. And I have the weeks. Well, I take those weeks, and I take my regular vacation out of there, but I use that like a benefit. I call it a benefit. You know, when I can take time off, I got the days off, I don't even think about it. And at the end of the year, I know I'm not gonna use all my weeks, because I got 5 or 6 weeks, I think it is. If it comes out, it's close to 5 or 6 weeks of what I have, and I know I don't. And I know every year you guys usually you roll 2 weeks over for me for the next year, because it's there. And then whatever you pay me, I think it's half of it, or whatever it is, that's what I did, and I let it go. I just simply let it go. I know it's there because it's a benefit, and I look forward for that. It takes me time. I just can't take all the time off. Actually, there's only 2 of us down the shed, and I don't take all the time off, because I don't wanna leave one guy by himself all the time. Plus, if it does happen, if I take the time off, I get called in. I'm called in a lot.
Sure.
A lot to come, to cover things, and that's why I let it go, but I still like the benefit. Now, after you guys get done doing all that, I know you and I actually thought it was gonna start next year, not this year's. Did you guys throw it out there
Can I
for
stop
this
you
year?
for a second, because I think there's a little bit of a, like, miscommunication, misunderstanding occurring. The official Brentwood town policy is that we do not do any earned time buyout, correct?
Correct.
That is the policy that had been brought up a couple times, can we change this, can we change this? And after making some other changes to earned time, we said, we think we need to change that policy after looking at what other towns do. But we pushed that off to 2024 to change the wording of the Brentwood town policy. So the active policy in the town of Brentwood is that we allow, I think, 2 weeks pushover, and we have no policy to do any payout. When payouts have occurred, it has been one-off exceptions that have been voted by the board at that time.
With the exception, and I'm not arguing that point with you, but for the past 22 years, I've been a full-time employee of this town. And for the past 22 years, it's been an automatic. Whether it's been at the halftime, or whether it was at the full-time that you guys have done it. And we were talking about making the changes this year. And to me, to do 1 more year of it was not a big deal. And to turn around and to cut it out the week before Christmas without even the opportunity to use it up if I wanted to me was not a fair and just way to do it.
But to clarify, Joe, this board did authorize a payout for 4 people in town, including yourself.
Right, but it didn't pay out for the full thing.
Correct.
And my whole point to that is, it has been in the past. You had that policy in place, you decided not to enforce it this year, out of the clear blue, as a drop of a hat, to a week before Christmas. Because we had discussed this literally 5 weeks before that, saying, hey, we're not, Andy had brought up the 40-hour thing to begin with. And you guys all sat here and went, no, we're not even gonna discuss it this year. And then the week before Christmas, you had the opportunity to take it off if we really wanted to. I took the 2 days that I told her I was gonna take. And not to be able to do that, and not to be notified even after the meeting to have the opportunity to take it off and use it up, to me wasn't fair. And that's the way I look at it.
Okay, any board members want to comment on this? I mean, we had a robust discussion about how to do this at our last meeting.
Karen, did you send out emails the next day?
I didn't send out emails the next day, so we had that meeting on Tuesday, I worked on Wednesday, and then I was off on vacation. So I didn't send out emails, they received those checks that following week.
And the only reason I found out about it, I was told to be, I wouldn't have known about it until the following Sunday, or the following Friday, not the week of that week, but the following Friday, but I was told to watch the meeting in the minutes, or the meeting itself, and that's the way I found out about it.
They generally take off the days between Christmas and New Year's. I had known that they were going to take some time off, so with the buyout of the 48 hours, the other 40 hours that they had left on the table, I figured they would be using most, if not all of that time, between that meeting date and the end of the
That's what
year.
you told us at the meeting.
So
I
didn't think-
apologize if you weren't informed in an official capacity about that. But I really do want to clarify that us doing any kind of a payout is an exception to the town policy and has varied throughout the years, and Karen shared with us, has varied significantly throughout the years and has been, used to be, I think, sometimes it would be 50%. And then there was a period of time when PD was very down-staffed where it was briefly put up to 100%. And so that's the policy that we want to kind of clean up, and so that it's not, we don't think it should be variable year to year. That's the whole point. That's not
But my
the way to
point,
do it.
my point to it is you wanna do that, that's fine, I don't have a problem with that. But to turn around and do it the week before Christmas arbitrarily, to me, then that doesn't seem fair. Carry it out for the year that you're here, finish up what you've done, and then if you want to address it in the new year, which we were talking about doing, then address it. But to turn around, like I said, with no notification for either one of us to even be here, to even discuss it with you that week.
Wayne was-
So he was here because he was here for something else.
Right, but he was here for the entire discussion.
Right.
So
but
just
my
to bring
point-
clarity, it wasn't on our agenda. Chief Ventura brought it up because it was relevant to 2 police officers.
Right,
We
which you-
decided to
okay.
include the 2 of you because we knew that you were potentially interested in a payout. As of the time that meeting started, your earned time payout was $0. So we made an agreement at that meeting as a courtesy to offer payouts to 4 people in town. So I apologize if that payout wasn't the amount that you were expecting, but it was a courtesy additional bonus payout we offered to 4 people in town, which
So-
we felt like
But you
we
went
could
out of
do.
you went out of your way to frame it to make sure it fit his 42 hours for his guy. You turned around and did that. He brought up 40. And out of the clear blue, you turn around and he brings it back up to 48, just to make sure the 42 fit in.
Do you want to speak to that, Andy?
Well, the 48 was my original proposal 5 weeks ago.
No, the original proposal 5 weeks ago was 40.
I think I thought
No,
it was 48.
40, the same way you brought it up that night was 40. And then you turned around in order to make it fit, the 42 that the gentleman from the PD deserved, you made it 48 arbitrarily to make the 42 fit. So the 2 people that have been here the longest and have done what we've done for the town are sitting on the short end of the stick because you decided you guys wanted to change it at the last minute.
So, Chief, and with all due respect, I really admire the service that you have given to this town. 22 years is nothing to laugh at, and the town better off for having it. So, that said, as I've been on the board and as the board has changed over the last few years, we really have made a pretty significant effort, as you've seen in the progress in your department, to professionalize things. One of the major elements that we really gotta focus on is making sure that there's transparency. And to say, oh, you've done it every year, why aren't you continuing to do it this year? I think that it doesn't allow us to manage the town the way that we need to be able to manage the town and provide that transparency that the taxpayers deserve and expect from us. To say every year that we're changing things because we're actually instituting a written down policy that the town has and still giving some of an exception, which is not something that, which is still bending the rules, to be clear, I mean, it is. That's why we all feel uncomfortable with it, and that's why we had the discussion that we had. I understand, it's a tough pill to swallow, I get it,
But you could have,
but
you guys could have done this, and I will bring it back up again.
That's fine.
To do it, to do it the week before Christmas, to not notify anybody that you're doing it. And then, wait a minute, and then turn around and just go, whoop,
Chief,
it's gone.
these meetings are held in, like, you know, this is not that we didn't notify, we literally are live streamed right now, Chief.
I understand that, but it wasn't on the agenda, it wasn't brought forward as an agenda part of it, it was, the police chief sat here on the corner and says, I got two guys that don't fit the criteria. Can you do me this solid? Pretty much is what I got out of that conversation. You guys turned around, you did them the solid, and picked an arbitrary number for the other two gentlemen that were involved in that. And that's the way I look at
But
it.
we tried to make a policy.
You made a policy change a week before Christmas without the understanding and the participation of the people that affected.
Actually,
That's the
there
way-
was no policy change, chief. There was a
We benched
policy
You
exception.
had done it for 22 years, is what I'm getting at. You set the precedent. The 22 boards before you had set the
Don't you
precedent.
see how that's a problem though? To say it's always been done this way, why isn't it, like, that's.
Can you finish up 1 year that way? Would it have broke you guys' heart?
Chief,
to
this
fin-
is,
Would
this is
you
getting,
guys,
Chief, this is getting disrespectful.
you disrespect, I was disrespected the other night when I
I'm
sat
sorry
here.
that you felt that way, this is getting disrespectful. We have your back every day, you know that we do. I don't know how much further you wanna take this.
How much time are we looking at?
4 days apiece. Because I get used as the example of 96 hours, and I used 2 of it, to bring it down to what I normally do, which is about 2 weeks of carryover. So when you paid out the 48, you're talking 4 days apiece, an hour more for his.
I'm not inclined to change the vote that we took. We had a robust discussion about it.
No, neither am I.
And you're asking, you know, for a payout, as has historically happened. We gave a payout, as has historically happened. I feel, we all felt comfortable with it when we voted 2 weeks ago, with the amount of payout that we did.
I think, I certainly understand the lack of notification. I think, I feel definitely poorly about that. I agree that ideally it would have been better if you were here for the discussion, and at the very least that you knew the next day, that you were informed the next day. You know,
Can I just say something
Yeah,
to that point?
Yeah.
It has never been an agenda item historically.
Yeah.
It has
Always been
always
an
been
exception.
handled in this same manner. So department heads have not traditionally come in, and I usually just draft up a quick spreadsheet, just like you saw last week, and said, here's where everyone's tallies are, this is what they accrued, this is what they used, this is what is available. So it wasn't handled differently this year.
That's actually the reason why operating by exception is a problem.
yeah,
If
no,
you
I
have a
get it.
good policy
I
in
get it.
place, then you know at the beginning of the year what your earned time looks like.
I get it, and where I was going with that was not to put blame on you, Karen. I frankly, I think to most people, this is pretty confusing. A lot of it is really just confusing as to what's the actual issue, how did it get to that point, what's the policy, how did we discuss and eventually vote on the policy? And so Karen, I'm in no way putting blame on you, but I am stating what I feel is true, which I think it is unfortunate in this case. And I do think that a lot of that has to do with both of you who have served the town a long time and very well, and we've worked together, I think, you know, certainly in my time, short time on the board, have worked together very well. But I think it's really, it's complicated at the end, because I can sympathize and empathize with what they're saying, and at the same time, we're talking about something that was done. I assumed we did it 2 weeks ago before Christmas because it was necessary, and again, this is probably me just being naive. I thought it was necessary timing-wise to make a decision.
It was before we closed out
at
the
that point.
calendar year.
And so I guess that is where we end up is, you know, Chief, what is it that you would like us to do to make it right? What is it that you're asking? Because I can only say I apologize sincerely, that you feel that way and that it went down the way it went down. And I guess just to make sure I'm on the right page, what is it that you're asking us to do at this point?
I just personally feel that you should have carried it out the way you've carried it out in the past. Which means you would have paid it out, you would have made your policy change this coming year and made it work. To pull out a policy that's been in there, and for 22 years, at least with me, I can't tell you with everybody else because Wayne and I are probably the longest two people standing here at this time. So for the last 22 years that I've been full-time, that was the way it worked. Whether it was at half-time or whether it was at full-time when it got stepped up for the officers. To have gone one more week or one more session with it, to me, wouldn't have been a big deal.
So to make one more exception,
To make one more exception,
Which we
that's
did.
all.
This is what I'm confused about, Chief. We did. We paid you out about a half-time earn time payout. So I'm having trouble
But you
understanding.
turned around over the last 3 or 4 years and paid it out at a full step.
That was a different board in a different circumstance.
I'm just saying, tradition has had it that way. All I'm
Sure.
saying, and for you, and for it to happen the week before Christmas, without us having the opportunity to take the extra time off, to me isn't right. And to have turned around and created a spot, because it worked out nicely for some people else, and I'm not blaming the other two gentlemen, we get along fantastic. It's a great relationship we got between the PD and ourselves, and I want that to continue, and I don't want anything to mar that. But to turn around and to do it for those two people, to make it work for those two people, you should either gone, we're doing 40, or we're not doing anything. And to just arbitrarily go, okay, 48 works because it fits the other two people.
Just to clarify, we did a one-time exception of 48, and then this year we're taking back up the policy, and that will clean this up for good. I
That's
think we
fine.
can pause
That's
it
fine.
here,
I just
unless there's
came in
anyone
here-
on the board that wants to make a change or make a motion at this point.
What would the motion even be?
If anyone wants to suggest that we change how we did the earned time, one-time payout 2 weeks ago when we made that decision.
Is that what you're asking for, Chief? Are you asking us?
He's
to
asking for 100%
You're
payout
asking-
instead of what the payout that
Are
we
you
did.
asking us to revote?
I'm asking for you to adhere to something that was, granted, it may not have been you, but to me, it's been the tradition, however you wanna take that.
What would the board's thought on a compromise in that we allow Wayne and Joe to carry those 4 days over but they have to be used by the end of March? It's not gonna cost the town anything, and they don't lose the days.
Or just carry over in general, or just carry over in
Or
general
just-
until next year.
I just don't want them to be in the same place, so if we get them used to having to take time off throughout the year instead of at the end, but they become whole again, doesn't cost the town any money because we don't backfill their hours. The chief now has a captain that he can rely on to help with extra duties at the department. Hopefully,
that's
we
a
don't
reasonable
get any snow in the next.
I mean, literally.
But there's a little compromise, and
I think that's a reasonable compromise. I don't know if if I would feel strongly about it being a March date, but I think the board can
I'm
discuss
not
that.
strong about March, but
The March thing is, I think, making sure that you guys take some vacation.
Right.
No, I
A little bit.
got you.
And
A little
Chief, to
bit.
be clear, our understanding was that you guys generally take vacation, and so that part that we weren't approving, most of it was going to be used, and sounds like some of it was used, but not 100% of it.
Right.
So if folks are in favor of carrying those days over,
Yeah,
do you wanna
that's
make a
fine.
motion?
Yeah, that's fine. Andy?
yes.
Please
Carry,
do.
allow them to carry the extra 32 hours into 2024.
For
With no-
March or not?
With no end, just to,
No,
I think that's fine. Leave it up to them.
Okay.
make it less messy.
Or whatever the max, I don't know what the current hours are.
Take
They're not even-
vacation.
They're less than 32, isn't
Yes.
it? Okay, it's less than
No,
32.
it's just,
I
I'm
hear
not
you.
trying, it's not something that I've done. I took 2 weeks this year. I'm kinda like Wayne. If.
It's good for you guys.
You're supposed to take vacation.
It's not,
Keeps you going.
it's not in a DNA. It's just not the way the two of us operate. I'm the old school. I come in here, I do a job, I try to do the job to the best of my ability. And I try to give to the town the best way that I know how.
So,
The same way that he,
That's not in question here.
you know, and I'm just, you know, it just caught me the wrong way.
I get it.
Like I say, and I'm not trying to blow up the relationship with you guys. I think we've done a great job working in a direction. I think we're all headed in
I
a good
get it.
direction. It's just,
Yeah.
the way it came about was
We
more the
have,
way that was aggravating.
So we have a motion on the table to carry forward the hours. We've got a second?
Second.
All in favor?
aye.
And I'm an aye, so we'll allow those to be carried forward, and then,
I'm not an aye. I'm
not an
sorry.
aye?
I'm not
Okay,
an aye.
okay.
Yeah.
So we have
I didn't
4
know
to
if we were
1.
gonna have discussion or not.
That's okay. I think we've discussed it a lot, so
That's
Well, you can speak your piece. you
Well,
if you wanna say
I-
something, please
I
do.
mean, just to explain, I mean, I think, you know, it's not an entitlement. The policy was, there was no policy.
Well, there's a policy that we don't,
That we
Do it,
don't.
correct.
So, you know, I just find that, you know, this is, you know, an entitlement, and that's not the way it was supposed to be or ever intended to be. So I feel like what we did was fair in the first instance, so, you know, I would, you know,
I think
that-
that's why
the
we'd all like to clean it up to change the
And
policy
I
this
don't
year.
disagree, and I
Yep.
don't disagree.
Yep.
Having
Looking
said,
forward to that discussion.
yeah, having
That'll
said
be a
that
fun
and
one, too.
and explained that, you know, I'm appreciative of, you know, both of what you do for the town, but I can't support that, so.
Okay. I hear, thank you for your comments. All right, we're gonna close out that topic.
Thank you.
You guys okay?
Have a good night.
Thank you. Thank you for that suggestion. That was a good suggestion.
Sure.
Moving on, conservation alternate statement of interest. So I think I saw Jim here. Yeah, we have both candidates. So Rob Wolfchuck is out of the country, so was not able to be here today. We have Patrick first on our booklet. So why don't we have Patrick come on down? Welcome.
Hello,
Thank you for coming.
thank you for having me.
So we had discussed, I think a couple of weeks ago, when this first came up, that this board had discussed, I don't know if you watch our meetings ever or follow our minutes, we've discussed over the past 3-6 months, trying to help the Conservation Committee make some forward progress. There's been leadership change, there's been a little bit of stress, I think, on that committee, and we're all trying to work together to move things forward. And right at the same time, we now have 2 alternate openings. So we thought it was a good time to have people come in so that we can get to know you a little bit more, because I think this committee is really hoping to pick the right people to push that committee in the right direction after maybe like a little bit of kind of confusion about the bond and things like that. So that's sort of setting the scene for why we wanted to have you come in. And I think that when we read a paragraph on paper, it's hard to really get a sense of kind of why you're interested and what you're looking for. So I think we all have read your statement of interest, which is also available to the public in the booklet. But I wonder if you just might tell us a little bit more about sort of what your ideas are for conservation, or what like your goals would be as an alternate on conservation.
Yeah, so I live on 240 Pickpocket Road. I've been there for most of my memorable years that I can remember. So I born in Portsmouth, my dad was on the Air Force Base, moved to Brentwood when I turned 8. I did my schooling here at Swayze, went to Exeter High School. I graduated St. A's, and now I'm at UNH doing a master's program in public policy. And I have a fellowship in outdoor recreational policy. So there is a lot of conservation work that comes with that. But more importantly, why I care about conservation here in Brentwood, which is why I want to be on the Conservation Commission, is that our land in Brentwood abuts conservation land, active in walking and fishing and that kind of stuff on that conservation land. And I've seen the impact of land that's not conserved on our town, with developments going up and kind of the changing of the Brentwood character that I grew up in and grew up to love. And I've worked both in my role just in agriculture. My family has a farm in Brentwood. We're on Yellow Leaf Farm and Pickpocket, and I also do a lot of work with New Hampshire Farm Bureau Federation, and in those roles, just both as an agriculturalist and part of Farm Bureau, I've heard stories about farmers working and trying to work with conservation land and having something go wrong, and not being able to use their land and do what they want with it, and trying to make sure that doesn't happen here, that the people of Brentwood can conserve their land when they want to, how they want to both preserve what they care about on their individual parcels, but also what we care about as a whole. And I think the town, with the bond we passed in the last town meeting, has a great opportunity to do that, and working forward and working with landowners to conserve what Brentwood is what we should be doing.
Okay, great, thanks. Board members have questions or queries for Patrick?
Good.
Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. So one of the key factors for me is, have you been to conservation meetings before, and what, is your investment in, in being part of the discussion? Because that to me is important. If you're involved, and being there, then I think it's, great. And so that's sort of a key factor for me. And unfortunately, maybe we have a wealth of riches, in the sense that we have 3 people vying for 2 positions. So that's what puts us in this position of having to make a decision, and doing so openly. So I just want to hear if you've been involved, and if you haven't been involved and don't, the second part to the question, and don't get the nod, would you be willing to be involved in the commission, doing tasks and other things, even if you weren't a formal alternate, if you will?
Yeah, so definitely going to school in Manchester, I didn't come back as much as I would have liked to. I wasn't able to attend a lot of the Conservation Commission meetings. Going forward, I definitely would be interested in helping regardless. But I have been involved at town meetings. When I could vote, I just got the opportunity to be able to a couple years ago. But I've attended every town meeting I can since, and I've been an active both speaker, proposing amendments, that kind of thing at those meetings. And I definitely believe that the town government and the people who fill these kind of meetings are the ones who are the most important, and being part of that group alone and participating in the town government and on the Conservation Commission, regardless of my posting as an alternate or not, would be something I wish to do.
Thank you.
Other questions or queries?
You talked a little bit about the parcels, the bond that was passed a couple of years back. Do you have and you also talked about wanting to have agriculturalists be able to do what they want on their land, and with engagement from the conservation movement in general. Can you talk to me a little bit more about, number one, like your vision for what does the conservation, maybe like what is an ideal conservation parcel or couple of parcels? I mean, maybe there's no perfect ideal.
Yeah, I think the key part here is that it's not on the Conservation Commission to decide what an ideal parcel is. It's really on the landowners to come to the commission and kind of be like, hey, I have this land, I like it the way it is, I want people to be able to enjoy it, to hunt on it, to fish on it, to access it, to put trails on it, however that may come to be. It's on that landowner to come to the town and be like, I have this, will you guys help me preserve it? Will you guys help me conserve it? And whether in an agriculture sense, I would love to see the farmer, whoever it is, be able to kind of go through the deed and be able to write into it that he's going to be able to drive his tractor, not have to worry about soil compaction, or mow the hayfield and not have to worry about bird habitat, and have that kind of worded into the conservation easement without him really, or whoever it is, really understanding how that's going to happen. But I really think it's on the landowners to determine what that ideal lot is and how we can help them and the town's landowners to help them conserve what they have is really what I think the role of the Conservation Commission should be.
Patrick, just a follow-up to that. Do you think all conservation land should be open to public use?
I'm a strong believer that at the town, if it is town land, it should be, but I do acknowledge that some of this land is going to be fairly close to people's dwellings. Like, no matter how these lots are conserved, and I do believe people have a respect to privacy, and I think there is laws on the books about kind of how, especially with like the placement of game cameras and hunting within dwellings, I think those could be something that we look to have people respect when accessing land, but I believe people should be able to use public land and conservation land if done so.
So a lot of the acquisitions that Conservation Commission makes lately have been purchase of building rights,
Yes.
not actually purchasing the property. So the town doesn't own the land, we just own the
Easement.
Non-development. I guess.
easement so that people can't build on it. So there's a gray line between town land and, actually your family's farm,
Yes.
like, are you good with situations with that where
If
the family farm actually creates who can go on their land?
Definitely. If the town doesn't own the property, I don't think it falls under that idea of public land, right? I think there's a public interest in it, sure, but it's not public land, and I would be incredibly hesitant to be like, you can just wander however you want. But if it is publicly owned and the easement entirely with the deed is bought by the town, I think it should be open to the public to use in however they respectfully see fit. But I think easements and deeded access to building rights and that kind of stuff is something that's it's a middle ground that preserves private ownership. It allows people to keep their homes and sell that home and kind of keep it on the market in town, but also preserve the character. And I think it's a great tool that the Conservation Commission has.
Thank you.
Great, thank you for speaking to that, because I think that's been a friction point on the Conservation Committee is public access versus landowner rights that I think is probably going to continue to bubble up over the next couple of years as we work through the 5 years of the bond. So it's helpful to hear your thoughts on that. Other questions or queries for Patrick before we
So
let
am I
him go?
correct, your answer to Paul was that you haven't attended meetings because you haven't been around?
You are correct. I have not. I have attended the Conservation Commission meeting back in December.
Anything else? Okay, thank you so much for your comments, we appreciate it. All right, next we'll bring up Jim Hajar.
I didn't wear my interview clothes because I wore it when I went to the Conservation Commission.
Those are interview clothes.
But I wore my Ducks Unlimited hat. But I can't wear it here because in second grade, a teacher smacked me for wearing a hat in a public building. I have like this trauma now.
All right. So Jim's kind of same concept. I think a lot of us know you and have interacted with you, and read your nice write-up here about some of your kind of outdoor interest and some of your history. Can you kind of answer a similar question about what your goals and motivations would be and what you would hope to see happen with the Conservation Committee in the future?
I mean, I think my motivation was, when I saw it get posted on the town website, they were looking for alternates.
Yep.
Thinking, well, the town they're looking for people to volunteer to help. It's an area that I'm kind of passionate about in terms of conservation. I kind of wrote about that. And I decided, well, it's a good time for me. I'll put my name in and see if I can help out. I also think it ties in, it's something that I'm passionate about, but it's also something that I think a lot of people in the town are passionate about, because if you look at our surveys, master plan survey that we just did, like, the number one thing that pops up is people love the green space, right? They love the open, the green space. So, and I know Conservation Commission has a lot to do with that. So I thought it was a good opportunity for me to get involved with that and help out.
Questions, queries from the board for Jim?
Yeah, so same question that I posed to Patrick. Have you been to, meetings? And again, to me, that's the
Sure.
key,
Yeah.
factor.
I haven't been attending the meetings. The last time I actually was involved with them was when the game farm property came up. That whole issue came up about getting money, the town putting money out to spend for that property. I definitely went to those meetings to learn about it. I met with, I think his name was John, was the farmer, the landowner at the time. I spoke at town meeting supporting that, passed overwhelmingly. I do know that at the time, I believe it was hunting access was one of the issues that came up with that. I seem to recall that he said that people would have hunting access to it. Now, I don't hunt deer, so I've never hunted on that property, but I've heard that like hunting has become like not allowing people to hunt. And all I know is on that, I've heard this at the Sportsman of Brentwood meetings, and I've offered saying, well, let's go talk to the landowner, because I mean, I do remember him saying that we would have access. And I agreed though at the time and spoke in favor of not putting it, forcing them to say that you had to allow hunting, because I thought the way that was being written, that, if we went down that path, that we might have people who would not want to conserve land because, hey, I want to make the decision. It's my property, whether I want to post it or not. And I really feel even now that if we went and talked to him about like, hey, I live in Brentwood, I want to go hunt a deer on your property, blah, 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 blah. I think you could talk it through with the guy, so yeah, I was involved with that, but I haven't been going to the meetings recently, no.
And would you be interested in going if you weren't an alternate, just to kind of get, involved in that?
I mean, maybe, yeah, if an issue came up that I thought was like, I think just to go and sit there kind of like, I'm not sure I'd do that,
Okay.
Like your meetings. I mean, I tend to come if there's something that I feel passionate about, or if there's something I feel like I can add value to. Like I said, they were posting for it's an alternate position. To be honest with you, I thought this sort of question would have been asked on that night by the Conservation Commission, because I mean, they went through looking at all of these, read them over, had a lengthy discussion, and then they voted. So I had no problem speaking to you folks about it, but I really didn't think it was going to be an interview. I kind of thought this was just going to be you either supporting what they voted, or if you weren't, I was on Community Development Board in Methuen, and it was the same thing. You get appointed by the mayor, and then the city council votes to approve that appointment. But when I was a city councilor, unless you had something pretty specific that you could publicly say that a certain person had a, conflict or something, you kind of supported the appointments. I mean, but, so that's just my thought. I really am a little surprised that I'm being interviewed, but like I said, no problem, but.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, we wanted to hear from the horse's mouth, and our understanding
course.
was that,
Of course.
I had suggested it, Jim.
No,
Yeah.
I have no problem with it.
and our
I just thought-
understanding
I
was
just thought it was
that
gonna
you
be
guys
at
did
the other
not
night.
speak to the Conservation Committee.
No, they didn't ask. I came prepared, but I mean, they didn't ask us to speak. I mean, I'm not
So
saying-
we have you here tonight.
Sure.
Any other questions or comments?
I'm heartbroken, I thought he liked coming to our meetings.
I do. I have something
Well,
to add. I
he
really
clarified
do.
that for you, Andy.
I do.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I guess, Jim, on the same question I asked to Patrick, just can you talk to me about, the bond on the conservation land was kind of one of the big issues. And I'm curious what your vision is for some ideal parcels. How would we go about doing it? What would that look like? How would it benefit the town?
I mean, I think the game farm was a perfect example. I mean, the taxpayer, we spent our money to take that property and make sure that it was not gonna be developed in the future. And I think that was the most important thing, and I see that going forward. The more we can protect and keep green space and not develop in town, I think it's better for all of us. It meets the vital, I think that's the number one thing that comes up in all of our surveys, is that people want that green space. They want the rural nature of Brentwood. They don't want more housing developments. So I think the more we can do to conserve land, working with the people who own the property today, or with other outside groups, whether it's CELT or somebody else, in coming up with these easements to make sure that it cannot be developed. Like I said, I moved here because I lived in a community that failed miserably over a 40, 50-year period of not conserving. They just developed everything, and now there's like, the only green space they have in Methuen is at St. Basil's, because it's a church property. Do you know what I mean? Like, so, I mean, I'm not sure if I'm answering your question, but
you are.
I mean, I also know that, like, we have to be smart too, right? Like, there might be properties where we have the opportunity, but what if somebody had a dump ground there or something in the past or something, right? Like, we wanna make sure that we don't step into something really stupid first, I mean, just to conserve it, but I'm just saying that I think it's important for us to keep the rural nature of the town, to make sure that we continue down that path of conserving as much property as we can to protect from development.
Other questions or comments? And I think just to clarify, Jim, that I did hear you say on that sort of frictional issue of public access versus landowner rights,
Yeah.
that you do not really feel that we can force a landowner to do something they're not comfortable with, but would be
I
in
don't think we
favor
should- I don't think
of
we should-
trying to
If it
work
came
out.
to, no, I don't think we should force everyone to, have access. But I do believe we should try to get the access, even if
Sure.
it's like, in some other
Negotiations,
communities. We don't have the water, we do have the river, but like, a lot of communities don't have like access to water, they'll have a boat ramp or something.
Sure.
The land they get, but then they say only our residents can use it. So that's what I'm saying, maybe at the game farm, we come up and say, look, I know you don't want just anybody hunting here, it's not posted, but
I think the
why
game
not?
farm's a separate
Well,
topic, I was
any-
just trying to get your sort of
Okay,
philosophy
sure.
on,
Yeah, I don't think
on whether
we should
public
make it,
access is required.
I would like to have public access should be, if we're using our public funds, I think we should mandate that we have public access. I think hunting is a different topic. I think if they wanna post it to hunting, no hunting or something like that, I think
So
that's
you
something we can
separate
discuss.
public
I
access
do.
from hunting into
Yeah,
different
I
categories?
think if the town pays the money, I think we should be able to hike on that property, yes, I do.
Okay, all right, any other questions or comments? Okay, thank you so much for
You're
coming.
welcome. Thanks.
All right. The third applicant is Rob Wolfchuk, who could not be here today. I think he's in Vietnam or somewhere very
Yes.
far away. Somewhere extremely, extremely far away. Everyone has his statement of interest here as well, in terms of him having previously been on this committee for a number of years, including chairing the committee. Given that Rob cannot be here, and I think will not be back for several weeks,
I think he'll be
correct?
out for 2 more weeks.
Two
yes.
more weeks. And the next conservation committee meeting is?
Next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday. Is this board in favor of making some decisions tonight, even though we do not have Rob in front of us because of his travel? Or would folks like to do something different? What do you guys wanna do?
Is everyone familiar with Rob? Are you familiar with Rob?
Yes.
Yeah.
I know I am as well.
Not intimately, but general understanding.
They haven't gone out on a date or anything, I mean, they know each other.
Been around for a while, so.
Speed dating.
Yeah, maybe intimate wasn't the right word.
We knew what you meant. We knew what you meant.
Would it be all right if I just read this?
Sure,
paragraph-
yeah, maybe that'd be
part of
helpful.
this paragraph?
Sure.
I'm very interested in returning the Conservation Commission to bring back some institutional knowledge that was lost after the turnover of the commission in 2020. I feel I have the experience and knowledge to help the commission be successful. Between my experience on the commission and with CELT NH, I've seen over 100 conservation easement transactions and feel I can help achieve positive outcomes with town residents to conserve their land. I would welcome the opportunity to bring in educational resources from various organizations to help the commission further understand the opportunities for grants and other resources. I also feel I can help sharpen the focus of the commission and provide leadership to move projects forward in a timely manner. And then goes on to list a number of grants and projects that he's been involved in over the years, which I guess I don't necessarily need to list one
Sure.
by anyway.
Thank you. So those are the three candidates in front of us, and to address some comments I think that Jim had made, I'm not gonna speak for the board, but I think my feeling from this board, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is that this is an advisory committee that we really wanted to pay a little bit more attention to this year, because we did feel like there was some difficulty occurring on that committee and with communication back and forth between that committee and our committee. And so I think if it feels like the process is a little more in-depth, that was intentional, because this was one of our goals to try to make sure we're moving forward with the bond. Does that am I speaking correctly for the board on that?
I think that fits.
100%.
Okay, I think just to kind of clarify to Jim's point of why this might feel a little bit more intensive than some other processes that we've done. Okay. With that being said, we have three candidates in front of us for two alternate positions. Does the board want to move ahead with discussion and voting tonight?
Sure.
I'm hearing a yes.
I'm fine to figure something out. I'm pretty, I mean, Jim, Patrick, you guys, I didn't have any problem with anything, with the application, I think, or with the discussion. So thank you both for being here and I'm a little shocked that Rob and his experience and knowledge and obvious success in what he brought to the committee when he was on it wouldn't be put forward as one of the alternates. That's just my. I don't really know what to say about that.
Can I just add that I think that when you look at the three, in Rob, you have someone who is kind of the gold standard, A+, candidate, given his experience, everything I know about him, and many of us know about him. And that's exactly the kind of person we want to attract to serve on that committee, to get things heading in the right direction, to, maybe get to a point where we're not feeling like month after month that, it's still a ship that's not on the right course. I share John's view that in terms of being very much surprised that he wasn't. And I would go so far as to say we need another candidate of that level of talent, expertise, dedication to the issue at hand. I look at the communication committee, I look at the energy committee, it's people of high intelligence and really stellar backgrounds and best interests of the town in mind. I think this committee can, get there as well, especially if we have people like Rob Wolfchuk serving. And I think it's very much worth taking the time to try and attract another candidate of his stature. So my feeling is, I certainly am in favor of Rob and in favor of, he alludes to the commission in 2020 when there was that turnover, which we brought up here before. And I think, it's possible there are others who might be interested if given the chance going forward. So that's where I'm at.
In terms of feeling like you support Rob as the only one you would want to put forward, is that what I'm hearing you say?
Yeah, because I think this is extremely, I think it's important going forward, that we make the best decisions right now, and not just, I think you and I both felt that 2 years ago, the appointment paperwork for the Conservation Commission came through at the 11th hour, and we really weren't prepared, and we weren't really aware what we were doing at the time, and it was frustrating to realize that, oh, okay, so now we've got these 3-year terms, and here we are 2 years later, still talking about how we can improve that commission. So I think this is an important decision, so.
Paul, your thoughts?
Yeah, and after my thoughts, I would want to ask that Becky Dunham, who's the chair, be given a chance to speak. I could tell she's anxiously awaiting. In fact, I'll defer for the
We
moment.
can discuss that in the board if we'll allow that.
Okay, well, I would make that request.
Okay. Do you want to pause there? Do you want to make a motion to allow Becky to come up? We already have her letter.
Well, I mean, you've
You wanna
asked for my
speak first?
comments, so let
Okay.
me respond.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. So, I mean, to be consistent, I feel the most important thing is, have you been involved and have you gone to, board, commission hearings? And, what your level of involvement and experience is. So I think, given that, I mean, it would absolutely make sense to me that Rob Wolfchuk, given, his involvement, be given that nod. We are talking about alternate positions. I could see that, and I would support either Pat or Jim as the second alternate. I think it should be filled out today, in all due respect. And I mean, between the two of them, that's a difficult call, because as I understood it, there wasn't real significant involvement at the commission. I think Jim had mentioned, having been involved in the past with the game farm. Pat had said he went to a meeting, more recently. It's sort of a tougher call for me to make. I do think the idea of bringing in, someone young and new involved in an alternate position, does make sense to me ultimately. And again, no, I hope you don't take that in the wrong way, Jim. But
It's awesome to have many people involved.
yeah, so, and, Pat is a young person, so if I had to, and I guess I'm faced with it, yes, then I would give the nod ultimately to Pat because of that, and, in all due respect, Jim. So, that's my thought on it, and then I would request that, Ms. Dunham be given a chance to speak.
Okay. Is the board comfortable with having Becky Dunham come up and
I
speak?
was just gonna respond that I appreciate what you're saying, Paul. And we disagreed when the communications committee, appointments were discussed last time. I felt like it was better to wait and get top-notch candidate. And that was not, that wasn't ultimately the way it went then, but I think especially in the case of the Conservation Commission, we can't, with a straight face, argue that it's important to fill an alternate position as soon as possible when we know that one of the issues was that the alternates were not showing up for
Right.
months and months without any check on that. So that's why I feel like it's, I think we can make good progress here by filling one of the two positions and then go back to the drawing board.
Okay. Before we invite Becky up, do you want to speak at all, Andy?
Sure. So my vote at the Conservation Commission was for Rob and Jim. Rob, in my mind, is a no-brainer. The institutional knowledge he has is incredible. It's probably the only reason why you guys keep me around here, is my institutional knowledge.
You have good ideas once in a while.
Yeah, you
Every
do.
so often.
Really good ideas.
So, what brought me between the other two, was basically Patrick's education. Like, I went back to school and I knew how hard it was to balance work, meetings, school, and he's in a master's degree, so I didn't know how available he was gonna be to put forth, whereas Jim, I felt nights would have more availability. And that was my thought during the vote. Both people, I think, would do a fine job. I like the fact that Patrick's wants to be involved. He does speak at town meeting. He does make good points when he gets up to the mic. But I think the position should be filled, just on the fact that we don't always have the alternates showing up at the meeting. And a good discussion's a good discussion.
All right, so Paul, if you'd like to have Becky come up, you can come on up.
Thank you.
Yep.
I want to take the knife out of my back and feel I've been vilified. When I accepted this.
I hope you don't feel that way,
I
Becky.
do, I'm sorry, I do.
Disagreements
because this-
occur at this table all the time.
It does, and I understand that. When I accepted this role, first as an alternate, it was because I was interested in conservation. We have conservation land, we take good care of it, we've networked with other conservationists, and I have a background in that. When I was offered the position of chair, I realized that that was something I really wanted to do. I have people on that board who are experienced as former chairs. Lise McNaughton is a former chair of conservation. She was there during the first bond, so she has that knowledge and that experience. You've got Doug Cowie, who has given many years of work for the town of Brentwood for conservation and other aspects. So I think we have the knowledge. I can work with anyone, but I think it is wrong to say that we don't have three good candidates to choose from tonight. You've got someone who's very young but very interested and committed. We have 4 people over retirement age on that conservation board. We need younger people involved. That's going to make a difference in the future of conservation. To think that conservation is not functioning effectively right now, I think is a wrong answer. I think we are on the right track to move forward with the bond and with other aspects. And I take issue with the fact that we have not done that in the last 3 months. We're working on 2 bonds right now, possibly a third. We're making contacts with the planning board. We're getting projects accomplished. So I would take issue that anyone on this board thinks that conservation is not working effectively at this point. I would ask that you would consider to appoint 2 tonight. Chances are something will happen. You may have another opening down the road, and I do not want to have good people walk away from this and feel as if their experience and their enthusiasm for working for this town is going to be ignored. So I would hope that you would appoint 2 tonight. I'm a little uncomfortable with not having Rob make a presentation in person. I know you all know him, but the audience may not know him. And if you want the support of your community with the decisions that you make, you have to make that as transparent as possible. You've read it, but you haven't given him the chance to speak. He may make a compelling argument. He may be the one you want, but you have to make it an equal playing field for all 3 people. You can delay a second one if you want, but please appoint someone tonight that I feel comfortable with. And I
So
will
if
work with,
we-
I can work with anyone, you know
So can I
that.
just clarify with you? So you'd like us to appoint 2 tonight, but also like us to have Rob appear, so those are mutually exclusive. Would
I
you
don't
prefer
know
us to
which-
delay this vote? I mean, it's unfortunate he can't be here tonight. We
I
wished he could have
understand that.
been.
I understand that.
What would your preference be on timing? Because if we don't make any votes tonight,
It'll
this will
be
just
how
get
long?
pushed
2 weeks.
off.
I am fine with it being pushed off because our meeting is coming up and we have a lot of on our agenda already. So we're moving forward with all of those things. If you want to delay the vote so all 3 candidates have a chance to speak to the audience as well as to the board, I would endorse that. But I think you've got 3 really good people who are enthusiastic. And in these days, when you can find a volunteer who's willing to give the time, willing to learn and put the effort into it, I think that's important. You look at the town of Exeter with all their committees, they have 42 openings. They are not drawing people to serve on many of those committees. you have someone here who wants to work, I think you take advantage of it and vote.
So
Support.
is your preference for us to vote tonight or to hold off? Because I think I'm undecided on that. I mean, I'm all about transparency. We wanted people here, we wanted Rob here. He can't physically be here tonight. Would you prefer us to
I
bump the vote?
think there might be some reverberations if you don't offer Rob the chance to speak to the audience and to voice. If you make the decision without him going through that public part of the interview, I think that would set some people's nerves on edge. I think
Yeah, I
it should
think
be
I
equal
don't
playing field.
understand why.
Is that what happened at the Conservation Commission meeting?
My understanding
Did
is
they
none of
speak?
the candidates spoke
None
at
of the candidates
conservation
spoke. No.
So you want us to.
to do
have a,
what didn't happen at your
Well,
meeting.
you've said in your email that this is going to interview all three candidates tonight.
Yep, that was our intention.
That
Yep.
was your intention. One is not here. He should have that floor to be interviewed so that everyone has an equal, the perception is, the transparency is there, that it was a public interview of all three candidates.
just to clarify, you did not do that at the
No,
Conservation?
we did not do that. Frankly, Russ, and I will say this, the process, the new process that you've implemented has a little glitches in it. When,
It's actually the old process
it's
that
the old
just wasn't
process.
followed.
It's the old process.
To clarify.
It would be
Well,
nice to have that all
It's the
spelled
old
out.
process or it's the new process? You
The
just said it was
process-
the new process
the
we
proc-
implemented.
Yes, because prior to this, my understanding was that a commission could apply for internets or post internets. They would make a recommendation, and the select board would usually just endorse the recommendations of the committee. I understand that the way that the RSA manual, the RSA is that the select board has the authority to make the final appointments. But in that process, is it spelled out, how much discretion does the select board have to deny what the committee is recommending? And is there a process that, okay, if you don't take the recommendations, the next step is an interview? Is that written out? There are
That's all at our
glitches.
discretion, the discretion of this board. Appointments to town committees is 100% discretion of this board.
I understand that now, and we're working through that. This is only, the third committee that's gone through this process so far? Communications, rec, and now conservation.
No, libraries gone
Library's
through
gone
it.
through that?
Several others have gone
But you don't
through.
have the discretion to appoint the library trustees. They're a separate,
Correct.
But the alternates,
Alternates we do. So what I'm hearing from you, and I agree with you, and that's why I posed it to my board, is it really the right thing to do to vote tonight? Because I think ideally we would treat all candidates exactly
Yes.
the same and have them
Yes.
speak. And so if you are in favor of that and the board is okay with that, it just means we will not have this done by your next meeting if we bump this
I
out.
have no objection to that whatsoever.
Okay.
And I would also encourage you to pay attention to our minutes, to take note of what things we are accomplishing and how we're laying out our goals and streamlining the process and moving forward. I would take issue if there's criticism that we are not moving forward and that we're not.
And Becky, just to clarify, I think you are aware that 6, 8, 9 months ago, when
Oh, I
we
know.
first started discussing,
I know.
there was a lot of friction there and
I
then
know.
leadership change. And so a lot of the comments are reflecting that process. And we have been very happy with the direction that it's been going, and we've recently approved money from the bond.
I'd
So
like
we
to hear that.
appreciate,
I'd like to hear that at the table more than it's.
we appreciate your
fumbled.
efforts, we appreciate the efforts of the committee, but we also acknowledge that in the past year or two, that committee has had some rough moments.
That's
And
water
we'd
under
like
the
to
bridge,
see it
that's
move
fine.
forward with positive moments, if possible.
In light of the rough moments,
Yep,
having someone who brings the expertise and background that Rob does
Mhm.
not be recommended
Yeah.
is a huge red flag. I don't read your minutes every, I'm just saying, for me, I know that there have been bumps in the road.
mhm,
I thought it had been, honestly,
Mhm.
relatively smooth since you took over,
thank you.
sincerely. When I saw that, Becky, I was just like, whoa, what's happening here?
Well, the vote was very close. It wasn't all one way, and we went with the votes.
Did you vote for Rob?
No, I did not.
I
Because I
don't
see
mean,
him,
I don't
I'm
mean,
in touch with Rob anyway on a number of other things. We've worked together on a number of things even before I was on the board.
I'm not asking for specific vote,
Well, it was in
Well,
public.
yeah, no,
It was in
it's-
public.
I'm just saying, for me, from my perspective,
Mm-hmm.
that was
I think I probably speak for all 5 of us that we were surprised not to see Rob recommended by the
Just-
committee.
Based on
Mhm.
the turbulence of the last year.
Well, the turbulence is gone.
Well, the,
That's
No,
what,
well-
that's what I'm saying. Is
It feels a bit turbulent.
It seems like it's not.
for the record, Rob himself raised the issue of the Conservation Commission planning to nominate or whatever the alternates without, in non-public. That was brought here and that was discussed here.
I'm sorry, would you explain that again?
I'm
I
not
don't
sure.
understand
That was,
Russ.
and that was since Becky took over.
When,
So,
I'm not sure. What do you mean?
So that was a miscommunication.
Oh, okay, I'm
well,
not sure what that's about.
the point is, it was announced that the vote would be a non-public.
Oh, okay.
Right, we talked about that here.
oh, that's true, that was a miscommunication. I did not receive that or hear that at when you discussed it in select board, that it was going to be in public. I'm sorry, I didn't miss that. It wasn't anything underhanded by me. I just had not heard that that decision was made, that those discussions would be in public.
At this board?
At this board, yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
No, at Conservation's Board.
At Conservation's board, was it to be in public or non-public?
I think Becky's first meeting as chair, she was under the impression that the meetings, the interviews were supposed to be non-public.
Because
And that's what she announced.
Gotcha,
because that
Until
was,
we had
I
the
get-
chance
yeah, I
to
get it.
clarify
I
with
get
it.
her.
right.
gotcha.
So
Okay. So that's all been
Nothing, it was
clarified.
just misinformation.
It
and
wasn't
I
in-
didn't get-
Okay.
yes.
it wasn't intentional,
No,
Russ, but,
And in the end, it did play out in public at your
Yes.
committee, correct? Great,
yes.
perfect. Great.
So what are we doing?
So what I'm
Going around in
hearing
circles.
is a general
Feels like-
feeling, well, and I think to your point, right?
just like itself.
We're trying to be a professional board, that's a rules-based board, that's a policy-based board, that's a fairness-based board. And so what I'm hearing from you, and I would agree to some degree, I know Rob, I've talked to Rob about conservation, but I think we should give him the same opportunity to come forward, so it
And
just
I've
means
worked with
this will
him.
get pushed down.
And I've worked
The
with him
line.
on some things,
Just
so,
get pushed down the line.
yep,
Yeah.
that's fine,
I think Jim has something.
Okay.
yes.
No.
You don't have to do anything, Jim,
No,
we're
I want-
pushing it
no.
down the line.
No, don't push it down the line. I'm old, I'm unintelligent, no problem. No, listen, I
You're
got no
neither old
problem.
nor unintelligent, Jim.
I just don't drag it on because, but I will say, I mean, the number one thing that came up on our master plan was people want to preserve green space.
We are all
Number
in agreement
3,
here.
I believe, when there were 3 listed, the third was ending the political divisions in this town. Now, I'm not saying this is political or anything, but I don't know what it is. I
We're not sure
volunteered,
either.
I put my name in to hear this sort of talk about not being qualified, not being intelligent, because that's what he said,
I'm not sure what
Again,
we're doing, Jim.
I went to the Conservation
All right,
Commission meeting.
what would you
They
like to say
voted.
tonight,
What
Jim,
did they
about-
vote on? They voted, right? They voted. I don't, she
Jim,
can
would
tell
you
you what
like
the
to
votes were.
remain a candidate, or are you withdrawing your candidacy?
I think I should just let Patrick, and obviously you want this other guy who I don't even know, but if he's walks on water, you should have him there.
He doesn't know
honestly.
you either because you don't go to meetings.
It's, that's
so-
not,
listen,
that's off topic, Jim.
but
What would
just
you
no-
like
but
to say
just-
to the board?
I'll pull my paper so you can have, you can just vote it tonight, but you're going down a really slippery slope, because if I was on the Conservation Commission, like, they looked at these things. I don't know why they picked, I got the most votes and Patrick got the second most votes, and the other candidate got the third most votes. I don't know why. But obviously you think there's something like conspiracy theory wrong about it to make this big stink. Like, that's what I'm saying, like, I just
don't
don't get
think-
it. Well,
I think
that's
you're
what the
putting words
appearance
in
is.
people's mouths.
That's
What I
what the
heard John
appearance is.
say is he just doesn't understand why that vote went that way, given the
Right,
person's
well,
experience.
but what do you mean? Do people question the way you vote? I mean, right, like,
Sure they
they
do.
vote, but they
Number one,
voted.
yes.
Yes,
Number two.
but it's a vote, John, it's a vote. They
That's the-
voted.
Jim, it's
So
not,
it makes it sound like it
Okay,
gives the appearance that you people
Their
know
vote-
better than the Conservation
It's
Commission does.
our
That's the
duty to make
appearance.
appointments,
That's the
Jim.
appearance
That's
that
what
it
we're
gives.
doing here.
And again, part of it, I'm personally insulted because
Jim.
I feel like I was called unintelligent,
Jim.
but that's okay.
Jim, hold on.
But
Jim,
it's more than that. This is
Mr.
the
Hagar.
second time. You did the same thing to the
Jim,
rec
this is
commission.
not helpful.
This isn't your-
You didn't
This
vote
is
back
not
in that person
helpful.
either.
I don't wanna
So,
have to gavel you, but I
anyways,
will.
gavel it, but really,
remember,
I'm off.
the-
Let Patrick, and really, just.
the
let
first
two of
line,
them. I'm
okay?
off.
First line, member of the Brentwood Conservation Commission,
Yep.
from 2007 to March 2020.
It's okay.
It is, and then neither of the two of you have gone to meetings. You
John,
guys were great.
I have a master's in electrical engineering. When I was
Jim,
at, when I was
stop
at
talking over me.
AT&T,
Jim, stop, stop.
there were guys
Okay,
who
let me get
graduated
Jim,
with me.
Jim,
There were guys who
We're
graduated
gonna just
with me.
ask you to depart, please, and leave the board. This is not helpful conversation. I'm sorry that
Because
it's
you
got
don't wanna
to this.
listen to people, it's
We
obvious.
we have
You know
listened
best.
at length. Thank you.
Can I just make a final?
Yes,
Thank
go
you.
ahead.
I don't have a problem with the candidacy of Patrick or Jim. I have a problem, I have a concern based on a year of kind of turbulence with the Brentwood Conservation Commission, and the fact that we have someone who has attended and been on the commission for 13 years, including chairing the commission. Forget, have you ever attended a meeting? On the commission for 13 years and doesn't get an alternate spot. That's a concern for me, and this has nothing to do with Patrick or Jim.
Right.
This is a, what is going on? That's what this is for me. That's it.
Yep, I agree.
And for my part, my focus was on the candidacy of Rob Wolfchuk and how much I believe he's an excellent candidate. That's where my focus is.
Sure.
I'd like to see another candidate like that. That's what I said. So, we're already taking things out of context. So,
Madam Chair, I think you had sided with the chairperson of the Conservation Commission to hold off the vote until Mr. Wolchuk can present, so I'll make that motion.
Second, I mean, if there's no prejudice to doing so, then I think it's only fair and reasonable.
I think that's reasonable.
Why don't you vote? There's only two people, why don't you vote?
We have a motion and a second on the table to wait and have Rob Bovchuk come speak to the committee. All in favor?
Aye.
And I'm an aye, so we will put it out until Rob can be here. All right, other regular business items. Karen, what do you have for us tonight?
I have Jim Michaud's assessing contract for 2024. There are no changes. It's a level funded contract. The only change to this contract is that Board of Selectmen was changed to Select Board.
And is this a one-year contract or a multi-year contract? Sorry.
It is a one-year contract and has already been reviewed by DRA and approved.
Moved.
And I'm sorry, I just didn't hear everything over the.
It's a one-year contract reviewed by DRA.
If anyone is
and
having
approved.
side conversations, could you step out in the hall, please?
There was a change from what to what?
They just changed
Select
Board of
Board.
Selectmen to Select Board. That's,
Gotcha.
that everything else is the same from last year.
Got it, thank you.
Including the contractual amounts?
Correct.
I'm getting old, my hearing's getting bad.
Huh?
Motion and
Yeah,
second.
exactly.
We have a motion and a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. We will sign here for Jim Michaud. There we go.
And the only other question I have is with the primary being on 123 at Swayze, does the board feel strongly about having a meeting that day, or do you want to just sort of wait and see if there's a need to have a meeting that day at Swayze?
I would assume turnout's gonna be high for the primary, and we should probably just focus on
That,
a smooth
The
running
election.
election, and we can sign payroll or AP during the day.
Could we
23rd
maybe
is a Monday.
briefly,
Oh, no, I'm on the
it's a
wrong
Tuesday,
year.
yeah.
Yeah.
Could we maybe
I'll look at it
briefly
back.
rediscuss that at the 16th meeting in case there's anything urgent that we feel we have to have a brief meeting? We can
Yep.
have it on site like we've done
Yep.
in the past. But it sounds like we'll lean towards probably not having a meeting.
I don't
Unless
think that
something
I'll be available on the 16th.
Yep.
meeting, just to be-
Okay,
I think all 5 of you need to be present at the primary, or you need to appoint a pro
I've
tem.
appointed
correct.
an alternate.
yep. Everyone else is gonna be able to be present on the 23rd, correct? If not, speak with Daphne about having it
Appointing
The
someone.
entire day.
for the entire day, correct? You know, only, it's only
7 to
7 AM
7.
till like 9 PM. It's not that bad. It's only a good 14-hour shift. You'll love it, Paul.
Okay.
All right, so we'll tentatively cancel that meeting pending discussion on the 16th. And what else do you have for us?
Maybe I could just do one form. The board had decided, when you changed the way that you did appointments, that health officer would stay the same. process and wouldn't have to go through that full application process. So Bob Gary and George Kellaway are both interested in being reappointed as the health officer and deputy health officer. So this is just their reappointments. So I just need 3 signatures on each side.
He was on the fire department, and I believe he's a paramedic
He was a nurse.
nurse.
One thing, this is kind of off topic, but one thing I was thinking about is it might be nice for us to have the health officer and or deputy come check in with us, you know, twice a year or something, kind of keep us up to date on what's going on, because we don't, now that the health officer is not on the board, we don't hear much from them, so I think it might be nice just to put a little pin in that idea to get them to come before us, maybe for like just a brief, quick update now and then. Okay. Is there a motion for reappointing the health officer and deputy health officer?
Moved.
Second.
All in favor?
I,
Okay.
with your comment that I agree with.
Yeah. Looks like maybe we just, oh no, 3 minimum, okay.
Yep, on both sides.
Both sides.
So there's print here.
Oh, and sign here, you're right.
So I think it's just 3 of us that are gonna sign. Yeah. I'm like, I'm pretty sure. Okay.
Nope, it's all you, buddy.
Anything else you have for us?
No.
I'll just make an announcement while that's going around for signatures. Karen did inform me that a citizen's petition has come forward to put SB2 on the warrant again this year at town meeting. So just to put it in the board members' heads, that means we will need to schedule a public hearing per the RSA statute. If you're gonna have SB2 discussed at your town meeting, you have to have an official public hearing. Last year, we did it as part of a regular select board meeting with just like a brief presentation. So just keep that, your eye, that would likely occur
In February?
early February potentially. So just keep your eyes open for that, and anyone in the public who's interested in discussion of SB2, keep your ears open for that public hearing.
Separate from a select board hearing?
Generally, we do it like as part of our meeting, like the first 10 minutes or something of the meeting. It is meant to be sort of a presentation. It's not meant to be the select board taking a position or advocating for or against. It's meant to be informational so that the public understands what is SB2. That is the real goal of the public hearing.
So will the select board be running the public hearing, or will the petitioners?
That is your call.
Okay, yeah.
Last year, we
did.
ran it because
Yep.
it was our
Yep.
warrant article.
In the past, when you used to get petition warrant articles, you would just open the hearing and then sit and wait for the petitioners to present.
Oh, okay. So we can discuss that as we get closer to the date of how we want to run that.
I think Janice had a question.
Actually, just a statement, we actually have, I know it's separate from the public hearing, but just to let you know, we have a discussion on SB2 and town meeting with, just basically facts about both types of things. Someone from the League of Women Voters and someone from Open Democracy, will be coming to the library on January, one second. Sorry, I should get this ready.
Designate that as the public meeting.
I think, yeah, we can find out. We'll have to check the RSA about what we have to, what criteria we have to meet for a public hearing.
Okay, so it's January 18th.
January 18th, so for anyone listening, there'll be an open informational session on SB2 on January 18th at the library in the evening, I'm assuming?
Yeah. it's
Okay,
at
so
6
stay
o'clock,
tuned for that.
And there'll be a Q&A at the end, so if anybody
Perfect.
has questions.
Perfect, with the
they'll-
Q&A, and we'll work with Karen to clarify the wording of the RSA, how we will hold the public hearing. We don't have to decide it quite yet, I just wanted to put it out there so we get everything handled correctly. Good?
Yes.
Okay,
We
so
won't
we
have
will,
time.
we will circle back on that. Any other things you have for us before we move on? No? Okay, so we'll do committee updates and or board topics, and we'll go to Andy first.
We're good?
Okay, John?
Economic development, tomorrow night, here, 6 o'clock.
Great. Russ?
Nothing at this point, I don't think.
Okay. Paul, anything you have for us?
Planning board, Thursday, big meeting about the property on 125
Right.
with all the rocks.
Yes. Okay.
Oh boy,
The rock property.
that's gonna be a fun one.
I think there's been some public interest in that topic.
Yes.
Okay, so that's this Thursday? Okay, great. And from the school perspective, I did receive an email today, which I'm assuming the community will receive, but just in case people don't receive it, There is an email that went out on behalf of the superintendent, Dr. Esther Aspel, that is a communication survey about communication preferences of people who live in SAU 16. So if you're interested in looking up, either you may receive it as an email, or you can probably find it on the SAU website. So there is a SAU-based survey that is out now, so keep your eyes open for that if you're interested. And once again, I'd like to thank Swayze School that is going to allow us to have the election at their school in 3 weeks, and to remind any parents listening that there is an election at school that day. And we really appreciate the school being flexible given the very unusual circumstance we found ourselves in this year with sort of a last-minute primary date. So thank you, Letty, on behalf of the select board, and thanking your board for allowing us to do that. I think it will make for a much smoother election for us. Any other board business?
We have
Do
non-public.
we have any non-public?
Oh.
Not for tonight? Okay. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Do like
Do you guys wanna take photos for the website?
I'm not sure we came prepared and spiffed up, though, looking our best.
Very quick.
We can. Yeah, why not?
Individuals.
You're going home? All right. Russ is not getting photographed, apparently.